board. And I'm really excited to welcome Mike Harrigan, the CEO of the Braining Center, today to talk about the solution that he's got. I've known Mike personally for a few years now, and love the vision that he has for his organization. And I've seen, some of the partners that he's been lining up, which is really exciting. But let's dive in deeper, get to know Mike a little bit better, and learn a little bit more about the solution. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really
So before we dive in, tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to founding the Braining Center.
Yeah, of course. Well, first, I want to thank you for having me, and really thank you for all of that. I love watching and engaging in your presentations all the time. It's such an important and impactful service that you provide. I just want to thank you for that.
Thanks. Oh, no problem. It's been fun. I'm enjoying it just as much as you all are.
Yeah, well, you can tell that. It shows. Yeah. Well, yeah, my name is Mike Harrigan. I'm a co-founder and CEO of the Braining Center. I'm a local guy to the Northern Virginia area. I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, and went to college in Virginia and stayed in Virginia since then. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Graduated in the 80s and kind of started my own companies in the 90s. And I've always also been in fitness. My company's in entertainment industry early on, but I've always kind of been into fitness. I was an athlete in college and high school, and then owned a boot camp and those types of things, and a high school coach and so on. But several years ago, read some information about the powers of training the brain. And I always knew, about the benefits of physical training. But there was a lot of really interesting information coming out about how you can really impact cognitive function through specific types of training. And that's the point where I kind of researched this quite a bit and spent several years traveling and researching and getting certified and really building a team to see if there's a way that we can leverage this new understanding about wellness that was emerging. And that's where the Braining Center came from. And that was the genesis of Power Braining, which is our service. And it really is about taking the best of practices in cognitive and physical training and emotional training, and kind of putting it in a format in such a way that it can be consumed by everybody, available to everybody, easy to use and affordable. So that's
I love it. No, this is great. And as you know, this is a topic that we've discussed several times on these discussions. There's a lot of different platforms that are out there, but just like physical fitness, it's having these various options is really important. Is that some people prefer to work out at Gold's Gym, and others want to. In fact, on the physical, there I was on vacation, and they have a new company now that will stretch for you. Like, you go to these centers and they will stretch you instead of you having to stretch yourself. And I think what we will see here in this segment of brain fitness is we'll continue to see a wide variety of different platforms, and everybody can pick the one that works best for them. So I'm really psyched to be showcasing your platform today. What I'm going to do is duck behind the curtain here, and I think you've got some PowerPoints to share. I do want to remind the audience to type in your questions as they come to you on this topic and our comments. And then, Mike, if you want to just check in with me periodically I'll make sure to let you know if anything has come about.
Absolutely. And if I get lost in this and keep going, you can feel free to prod me and say, hey, look, why don't we open up to some questions as we go as well. So
Got it.
I love
Alrighty.
talking about this, and I can just keep going.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's interesting what you said there, because that is true, that there are many different platforms, many different ways of training, and they're all very helpful. Many of them are very helpful. It all depends on what your circumstance is. But that's really kind of the background and the backbone of what power braining is about, and we'll dig into that as we move forward. But it really is about trying to incorporate as best as possible many different types of training together, and the science is really bearing this out, that to get the greatest overall outcome. But before I dig into that, I guess I should share my screen here, right? So let me see here.
All right.
Share. And we'll go to,
Okay, there you go. And then just go into slide mode. On the left there from beginning. You see that icon? It's on the bar. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, it's okay. All right.
There you go.
So so really our mission really is to give everybody the opportunity to think their best, to move their best, to feel their best, and to do this by leveraging these amazing discoveries and information that's recently, over the last couple of decades, but really accelerating in the last few years, in the world of neuroplasticity, applied neuroplasticity, physical fitness training, and technology, so that we can build programs, comprehensive brain-body wellness programs, and deliver those in a way that's easy to use, convenient, and affordable to everybody. And really specializing in this aging market is where we are. But before I go too much further, I want to just ask a kind of a general question. This is something I pose to audiences quite a bit. And the question is simple. It's basically, how do you feel like you are like Tom Brady, or any professional athlete? And more specifically, how do you feel like your daily experiences, what you do on a day-to-day basis, is similar to what Tom Brady does when he's at work on the football field in front of millions of people performing? And most people will say that there's nothing in common. I have nothing in common with that. My clients have nothing in common with that. But in reality, if you dig in, you might be a little bit surprised. So we'll just take one scenario of an experience that Tom Brady might have, in a typical day at work in front of millions of people, where he's a quarterback, right? So he goes under center, he gets a football, and he has 3 seconds to make a critical decision about what to do. Is he going to throw it, hand it off, run with it? And in that time, he's getting bombarded with all kinds of information that he needs to sift through to make that decision. So to start, he has a massive field in front of him, might be 50 yards of field in front of him with players moving around. He has to keep track of what's going on out in that wide span of land. At the same time, he needs to be aware visually of what's going on right around him in that 3-foot radius around him, so that he doesn't bump into somebody, trip over somebody, get hit by a 300-pound linebacker. But while he's doing that, he also just needs to be able to control his body, move based on what's coming at him, be able to get out of trouble or step into the proper position. While he's doing all of that, he needs to be able to stay calm. He needs to be able to regulate his heart, stay calm, and manage his nervous system so that he can make the best decision. Hopefully, he can do all this as much as possible on a subconscious level to leave his higher level thinking, his conscious mind, available for higher level critical thinking. Things like, how much time is on the clock? What play is it? Who are the players I need to be looking for to throw the ball to? What is my check down list? Those types of things. So he needs to be doing all of this in a very short period of time, a few seconds, so that he can make the right decision. And he trains to do that. So how is that like something that we might encounter on a day-to-day basis? Well, let's take a typical scenario where you might be carrying a tray full of food through a crowded cafeteria. You have to look out at the entire area to see where everything is, get a lay of the land, find out where your seat is, and be able to find your way to it. At the same time, you need to be able to see what's going on around you so you don't bump into somebody, or they don't bump into you, or you don't trip over something. At the same time, you need to be able to block out a lot of noise that's coming in, but be able to listen to what someone might be saying to you. You have to be able to control your body, just like Tom Brady does. You need to be able to avoid accidents and make the right movements to get to where you're going. And while you're doing all that, you need to make sure that you're staying calm, that you don't get overwhelmed by all this information coming in at once. And hopefully you can do as much of this as possible on a subconscious level, instinctually, so that you can keep your higher level thinking available for major decisions, like what is the best route to my seat? How do I respond to somebody if they have a question? Those types of things. So when you break it down, although we don't have huge linebackers coming at us and we're not going to get slammed to the ground, the implications of an accident are just as serious. And the amount of data that we need to process is equally, as cumbersome. There's information, auditory, visual, proprioceptive, all these things happening at once. So just like professional athletes train for these types of situations, so can we. And that's what this is all about. So, but first, we need to really kind of have a general understanding about how the brain works. And one amazing tool in our pack here is our brain itself. The brain is designed to change. And many people know this, especially in your audience, very learned group. They know what neuroplasticity is. But for those that don't, it basically means that your brain is plastic. It can change. It can be molded. It will adapt. And it does this based on the experiences that it encounters, the situation that it's in. And it's designed to help you thrive. That's the goal of the brain. It wants to have you live a better life, to help you to get better and to do things better, right? So how does it do that? Well, first, it needs to get the information that is required to make a good decision, to be able to change. The data or the stimulus that the brain gets comes in through our nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and through our senses, our eyes, our ears, our nose, mouth, all the nerve endings in our limbs, constantly sending information up to our brain. We analyze it, and then we send instructions back down to the body, telling us what to do. And it's a constant two-way feedback loop. And that two-way feedback loop will change the brain and change our body in its responses. So, but the second component of neuroplasticity isn't just the data, but it's the priority of the data. So remember, your brain is getting millions and millions of bits of information every second. It can't pay attention to all of it. Just like we have to block out the noise in the cafeteria so we can listen to what somebody's saying, or Tom Brady has to block out the crowd, but be able to listen for the whistle or for his teammates. There's priority put on certain data. And so how can we, and so there's different ways that you can prioritize the data. We're looking at this from a training standpoint. We want to get data to the brain so we can get the brain to change the way that we want it to. And now we need to prioritize that data so that the brain will pay attention to it and will heed what we want and will help to change the way we want it to. From a training standpoint, there's three ways to prioritize that data. One is through the frequency of training, how often we do it. We can also enhance the duration, how long we train, or we can deliver that information in a very impactful way, in a special way that's going to have a higher priority, a higher impact on the brain, and be more likely for us to hold on to that and change accordingly. So from a training standpoint, it's critical to understand that we want to get data to the brain utilizing our senses and our peripheral nervous systems and prioritize it in such a way that we change the way we want to change. So there's another very important discovery that's over the last few years is really becoming much more understood. And that is that specific cognitive challenges, mental challenges, have very specific physical outcomes as far as performance. And at the same time, so it's not just enhancing, doing certain cognitive challenges aren't just helping us think better, but they can actually help us perform better physically. And at the same time, there are specific exercises, specific movements that we can do that will have very specific outcomes from a physical performance standpoint. And this is really important. And we'll talk about this a little bit more, give some examples of this. But this is why you see professional athletes incorporating physical and mental exercise into their same routine. In fact, we now know that doing them together, doing these physical and mental challenges together at the same time has even more profound benefits in many cases than doing them even separately. So that's why you see these professional athletes incorporating them together. At the same time, you see clinics working on cognitive issues, whether it's PTSD, traumatic brain injury, ADD, stroke rehab, Parkinson's, all these types of conditions are incorporating both physical and cognitive training together to get the best outcome. And that's really the basis on which Power Braining has been built. These are fitness and wellness programs designed to enhance the brain and the body at the same time. So specifically, what would you experience in a Power Braining session? Well, these are online classes. These are classes that you have a subscription or a license. You log in and pick the class you want to run and you run it, right? They're all designed to be engaging and fun and very, very easy to follow. We did all the hard work in trying to make this as easy to follow as possible. You'll have video coaches on the screen to kind of walk you through a series of challenges in any given class. A class might be 12 minutes long, it might be 40 minutes long or an hour. It all depends on what the goal of that class is, right? And you'll have modifications throughout. So in some programs or classes, you might have 2 or 3 different video coaches giving you different demonstrations about how to perform that challenge, right? But these video coaches give you all the instructions, all the demonstrations, all the timing cues. They walk you through from beginning to end. And the classes themselves can be done in like a group class format where you have an instructor, brings it up on a wide screen in front of the class and leads the class. And like I said, all the instructions are delivered by the video coach. So the instructor can be there to motivate, to help give guidance, and to really bond with those participants, those residents at senior communities or otherwise. It can also be done with a caregiver one-on-one with somebody. They're doing it together, but again, following along with the training that's been delivered up onto the screen. So we have done, like I said, we did a lot of work, put a lot of work into this in developing this content that's part of these programs. I mean, literally thousands of specific exercises or challenges that people can do. So, but they generally fall into 3 different categories. So physical exercises, cognitive challenges, or challenges that really work on our autonomic system, help us to stay calm and relaxed, activate that parasympathetic nervous system, things like mindful meditation and controlled breathing, heart rate variability, controlled breathing. But as we said, there are certain, if you look at the physical exercises, there are certain of these exercises that will have not just the obvious physical benefits, but will have very specific cognitive benefits. And so there's reasons why we might put these challenges or exercises into a specific program based on both the physical and the cognitive benefits of it. An example of that is balance. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll give a couple of examples. So balance training. If you practice balance training, where you're standing on one foot, you're getting out of balance, you're forced to get back into balance, those types of things. It's very good for, for minimizing the likelihood of having an accident, a slip or a fall, and for coordination. But it's also been shown to be very, very helpful for spatial cognition, for understanding how fast objects are moving around you, what they look like from a different perspective, right? It's also great for auditory processing, things you hear, processing the things that you hear, for problem solving or putting puzzles together. So balance training has both these physical and these cognitive benefits. Leg strength is another one. Leg strength is obviously very good for being able to move around, but there are specific cognitive benefits to it. In fact, recent studies have shown that there's not just a correlation, but there's an actual causal effect now between strengthening your legs, exercising your legs, and living longer and maintaining cognitive health later in life. So if you engage in physical fitness training, leg strength training, you do enhance your likelihood of living longer and maintaining cognitive function later in life. Now, there are many other types of physical training that we do, from flexibility to aerobic, to dextercise, hand exercises. And all these will have specific physical, but also cognitive benefits. At the same time, in these classes, we'll do various cognitive challenges, things like simple math or word recall or spatial directions, cognition training, visual processing, visual tracking, auditory processing. We do a lot of working memory training, critical life skill, right? So, and then of course, those are physical benefits and cognitive benefits, right? That you see there, but just like any athlete, and getting back to the athlete scenario here, you could be the greatest athlete in the world, have the sharpest mind in the world, but if you can't handle the stress, you're going to make a mistake, you're going to fall. You can be really strong and healthy and smart, but if you're walking through that cafeteria and you get overwhelmed, you could slip and fall and have a critical accident. So you really need to be able to handle this stress. And so training those autonomic systems to be able to handle multiple data points at one time, process that information, and stay calm. So we do a lot of breathing training and mindfulness training and multisensory training to help you to be able to do that, to navigate life in that way. So this might be a decent spot, Steve, to pause and see if there are some general questions or specific questions that anybody might have up to this point. Steve?
Sorry, I was slow on the trigger finger there. Okay. Okay. First off, Belinda says, is this being recorded for review later? Yes. And then let's see, someone says, what do you mean in exercise? They will stretch you, stretching your own body. Okay. I think when you were talking about, oh, okay. If somebody wants to elaborate on that first question regarding stretching yourself and your body, if you could add that in. But what are the time lengths for each of these sessions?
So it depends on the program. So we have, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but we have various programs. We have one that's specific for fall risk reduction, some wellness, general wellness classes, but generally they'll range from 12-minute sessions up to, some could be as much as an hour, but generally most of them are in that 30 to 40-minute range.
Okay, and then is this an individual program that like somebody from their home would subscribe to? I believe you've got some partners with like hospitals and things of that nature, or is it administered through organizations or fitness instructors, what have you?
Yeah, so you could do either one. So you can go and get an individual subscription, and you'll have your own account just like you might for any other subscription. And that would give you full access to all the training programs that you can do at your home at any time.
Okay.
But we also work with organizations, and they licenses. And so the licenses will allow them to train if it's a senior community, to do these group classes with their residents, or if it's a home care provider, to be able to go to the home of the people they're taking care of and do these training with them one-on-one. Or in the case of Arlington County government, they use it for their corporate wellness, for their employees to be able to do this for stress management and for
and that's actually that relates to another question that just came in. Is there a recommended age group? I know, a lot of times in these discussions, we think that everything is related to older adults, but it sounds like if you've got partnerships with where people are using this with their workplace, that it's not necessarily exclusive to that audience.
That's correct. So we have a number of programs. So we are generally primarily focused on the aging community and helping to empower people to be able to enhance their physical and cognitive abilities through the God-given gifts that we all have, and empower instructors to be able to lead these people and help them to reach their maximum potential. But these programs we have some, independent living that, we've had college athletes do some of these programs and really get a good workout. But we also have programs for independent living, assisted living, memory care, specific ones for fall risk, and then general wellness that really anybody could do. And we'll touch on that a little bit more later on as well.
Okay, great. And then let's see. Okay, so Liz asks, do you provide upfront assessments to assist users in selecting the classes?
There's not currently an assessment tool for that, but it's fairly obvious. So when you go to the website and you look at the various programs that are available, it'll give a pretty good description of who it's meant for and what types of things you can do. And then at the same time, like I said, there was a great deal of work and effort put in by our team in developing these. So within a specific grouping, say assisted living, there's those programs have a pretty wide berth of what types of people would be able to do this and benefit from them. In other words, it'll help to train you at your specific level. There might be multiple video coaches on the screen giving different modifications, and the challenges themselves are designed to be able to have two different people could be doing the same challenge, but one's working harder than the other or doing more than the other. So they'll be able to train at their own pace.
Great. And the question that I had earlier was related to my comment about the franchise that I went to that does stretching. It's called the Stretch Zone, and I threw that into the Q&A for the person that was asking that question. Okay, let's get back on track here, but thanks for checking in. And then folks, just keep on typing in questions and we'll get it at the next break.
All right. So what we last were talking about here is that there are many different ways to challenge your brain and your body, and that many of these challenges actually have multiple benefits. Physical exercises benefit both physically and cognitively, and vice versa. But what's really important to understand here is that simultaneous multisensory training is key. So you're going to be doing some physical exercises, some mental exercises, but many of the challenges that you do, and they're done in a very fun and engaging way, but many of them will be challenging you physically and cognitively at the same time. And the whole idea here is to emulate real life. Just like I said, Tom Brady has to be moving his body, controlling his body, and processing all this information at once, cognitively and physically. And we have to do the same thing when we're maneuvering through that cafeteria or a large crowd or in any number of given situations. We might have to process visual stimulus, auditory stimulus, think about something on a higher level, and follow directions somewhere. So we have to be engaging physically and cognitively all the time. And so this simultaneous multisensory training is designed to help your brain process information more effectively, organize better, and at the same time, allow your body to respond faster, more accurately, and more effectively, so that you don't have an accident. So you do what your goal is. You achieve your goal. And so simultaneous training is really critical. Now, like I said, we have many different exercises and options of exercises in our training programs. But to give you kind of just a taste of how some of this works, and I talked to Steve about this before we went on air here, and I think we have a way for him to be able to show you some of these. But I was hoping to maybe give you a sample of 2 or 3 of these different types of exercises, so you can just get an idea of what we mean.
Yep.
Able to do that?
Okay, so
the first one. Yeah, so the first one, let me just give a little bit of background real quick. This is from our rapid reaction category. We have various categories of challenges. This one's called colored arrows. And what you're gonna do, it's about 3 minutes long. So if you want, you can stay seated and do this. I encourage you to try to participate and do this exercise so you can kind of get an understanding. You can even stand up and do it if you want. But what it's going to ask you to do, and the instructions will tell you this, you're going to start by just moving your arms in the direction of, I believe, the large head of the arrow. And then it's going to start telling you to keep moving your arms, but say either color of the arrow or the direction of the arrow, or you might have to say the color and the direction, like red up, blue right, green left, or you might have to alternate, saying red, right, orange, down, whatever it might be. But you'll follow along and you'll see how this is getting you to, you have to see these visual commands, move your arms, respond accordingly, say something with your mouth. So you're engaging many systems at the same time. So if you want to go ahead and try to run that one, Steve.
Colored arrow. In this exercise, only pay attention to the larger head of the arrow. Move your arms in the direction of the arrow. Get ready. Now you will say out loud the direction of the arrow. Down, left, right, up. Remember to keep your arms moving. Get ready. Now you will say out loud the color of the arrow. Blue, green, orange, red, white, yellow. Don't forget to move your arms in the direction of the arrow. Get ready. Now you will say the color and direction of the arrow. Blue down, green left, orange down, red up. Now you will alternate saying the color and the direction. Blue, left, orange, up. Great job.
All right. That was tough. Whoops, unmute yourself, Mike.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult challenges. I wanted to give you kind of a flavor of that. It's there are some that are even more challenging, but that's one that would be definitely in the independent living program. But it's very important to be able to process that information that's coming in and move your body accordingly. It's also a great working memory exercise, working those systems of your working memory. You have to know what the commands are, remember what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be reacting, and then you have to get the data in that you're supposed to react to. And as soon as you finish reacting to it, you have to release that data, wait for the next bit of information to come in. This is all how the working memory works. It's all about getting information, using it, releasing it, waiting for more information, using it, releasing it, and then coordinating that with your body. It requires a lot, and it's important to be able to do those types of things. And there's we also, I know we're running a little low on time, so we do a lot of breathing training. I was going to show you a really quick breathing segment, but that's okay. We can do that another time maybe. But we do a lot of controlled breathing, showing people how to breathe in through their nose, through the belly, and then releasing it in a nice controlled pattern. We do that during some of the physical exercises. We do it during some of the cognitive challenges. We do it when people are trying to bring themselves back down after doing a physical exercise. So we'll do a breathing segment, most classes 2 or 3 times. But there's one other one that's about a minute long, and it's part of the memory care program. We could show you.
Is that the one memory care color shape?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of gives you an example of something that's a little easier and designed more for the memory care.
Okay, so here we go.
Move your arms and legs as shown, and when a color appears on the screen, say the color. Say the color every time the block changes. Let's do one together. Red. Keep going. Now, when you see a shape on the screen, say the name of that shape. That was a fantastic job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how when we're exercising, we're not necessarily how easy it is to combine the cognitive aspects to our exercise.
Yeah, and how important it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
And specific ways of doing that will tap into specific systems that are necessary for optimal daily activities.
Now on the screen, like we saw the image of the fitness instructor, but I'm assuming some of your and for the digital client, the person that's at their home or at their desk or what have you, they would be using this. But do you have some live fitness instructors who are implementing this program after they have licensed it?
Oh, yes. So basically, the whole idea behind this program is to do all the research and testing and hard work of putting together the content so that we can empower those instructors to lead the class and run the program, but also spend their time not worrying about the delivery of the content itself and having to make sure that it's very precise in the timing, that some of it's very down to a millisecond timing, some of these exercises. But so they can spend their time bonding with and motivating and giving guidance to their residents or their clients, so that they don't have to spend their time actually creating the content or delivering the content so that people follow along with. So it would be the same types of video coaches that a instructor leading a class of 40 people or 20 people might be up front. The video coach is on the wide screen giving the instructions, demonstrations, and then the live instructor can spend their time walking around or doing it with them, giving demonstrations as well, but really motivating and bonding with the clients, the residents. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense. Great. Okay, so do you want to dive into some of these questions that have been coming in?
Sure, we can do that. I have a few more slides. Just go through them really quickly because
we'll finish up your slide deck and then we'll just finish our timeout with the Q&A.
Yeah, and I'll go through these a little more quickly. So so do I have control here?
Yeah, you just do share screen there at the bottom.
Let me pull that back up.
Zoom tests all of our cognitive abilities.
I had
There we go.
all right. So we talked about doing these training together and the importance of doing it together. And like I said, we're working on very specific types of skills like processing speed, memory, sustained focus, working memory specifically, stress management, and at the same time, balance and mobility and those types of things. And so one really prime example of why this is so important, how this is important is with fall risk. I mean, we all know the risks of falls and how impactful it can be. It's a leading cause of major injury to folks over 65, leading cause of non-natural death of folks over 65. We all know those statistics. But what we may not know is that really most falls are not caused strictly because of physical weakness, but it's a combination of physical weakness, balance mobility, processing speed, understanding how far away a stair is or how high something is or how fast something is moving around us, as well as situational stress, being able to take in all of this and stay calm without having an accident. So really this training is designed to try to check all those boxes, right? We do lots of different challenges to help you in a safe environment, train for these 4 areas so that when you're out in real life, you don't have a catastrophic accident, right? And as we said earlier, there's programs for a number of different, for the full range of needs of the senior community, whether it's fall prevention, like that brain and balance program, or independent living, assisted living, the dementia care program really designed to be done one-on-one with a caregiver, or just the general wellness programs to help people with stress management and productivity. And like we talked about a little bit, we provide these to organizations, senior living communities, or home care provider. They can do it in a group class format or one-on-one. And it's all, the whole idea is to try to do as much of the work as possible. Provide professional grade training, make it convenient and really affordable so everybody can access this and use it and empower themselves by activating their brains and their bodies. So that was the last few slides. So, yeah, we can go ahead and jump into some of these questions if people have them.
Great. Okay, let's see. So what is the cost of the program? Can group subscriptions be offered for folks who live in multiple locations or like for senior living communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So senior communities, we work with several, and they get a license. They'll get a license that's either monthly or annual, and that gives them access to all the programs that they can use to deliver these group classes or even one-on-one if they have, if they like. And that's really generally pretty affordable. It depends on the actual cost. It's going to depend on how big the facility is or how many facilities they have. If they have 20 locations, it's going to be much more, will be a better deal for them. But generally, you're talking like a couple $100 a month to be able to deliver, this all the different programs, whether it's independent, assisted living, memory care, stress management, all of them. And so we'll have facilities that do 3-4 classes a day for their residents. So I think that answers the question. But anybody can reach out.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah,
about
and here,
here,
if I'll take the screen back, I've got your for the individual. It looks like here's this your website. So first off, you can do a free trial, correct?
Correct.
And
Right.
then it looks like individuals, you could do monthly for $20 a month or annual for 156.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's exactly right. And that would give somebody full access to all the programs to be able to do on their at home. They can do it with their family. We do it, family, we do it 3 times a week. But yeah, so it's great whether it's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And if you want, I'm not putting any pressure. Well, everybody can do a free trial. So just, I put the link to the website in there, do a free trial and see if you like it. And then you could subscribe later. Let's see. Elizabeth says that was fun, but difficult. Great brain and physical training. Yeah. I mean, on that first slide, I was trying to keep up and it's surprising how much exercise that is, moving your arms around, but I liked the cognitive element to it. And somebody asks, and I was thinking the same question, are you able to piece the timing depending on your ability? So could I slow that down a little bit in the beginning to help me get more acclimated to it?
I got you. Yeah. So basically, the programs themselves, depending on which program you're in, they're going to go slower. The assisted living and the memory care are slower than the independent living, which that first video you showed was definitely one of the more advanced exercises. I just want to give a flavor. But the thing we also tell people is that you go at your pace. So if something is going really quickly and there's 2, it's going, at a one per second, you could just do every other one to start, or you just move the arms. And as you get better, just moving the arms, it's a process. It's not a one-time fix and you're done. It's just like any wellness program. You want to try to do this, 3 times a week if you can or more, and just get in the habit of doing it regularly. And as you do, what you'll find is, and we've had folks say this to us, they thought that we actually slowed down the video 2 or 3 weeks into it, but we didn't. It was actually the slide that you saw. They started to process information faster, and it made it seem as though the video was going slower. So as they went and they were having more difficulty at the beginning, but they just kept going, over time, you start to understand how it works. You start to be able to respond more quickly and accurately, and your brain starts to relax and you get better at it. And you start to feel like the screen is slowing down when in fact you are processing information faster, which is the goal.
Let's see. Liz asks, what have you been able to track regarding subscriber individual versus group outcomes and feedback? And what are your findings in terms of individual and group results? So I guess she's talking about the difference between somebody on your program at home by themselves versus sort of in the workplace or group activity setting. have you seen any differences?
Well, so we haven't had an actual formal study on that. The one thing I will say that is true with any program at all, any wellness program, any fitness program, anything that you do, is that you need to really try to factor in human nature. Accountability is a huge piece of it. So if you are in a group doing this, or you have somebody who's coming to your house and doing it with you, or you have a family member or friend who comes over and you do it 3 times a week, you are more likely to be able to continue to do it and to stick with it. So I would recommend, as much as you can to have a workout partner, or if it's a senior community, obviously the group classes have great results and really have a lot of really powerful outcomes that we've seen. But that is a big piece of it. Working out with somebody is very helpful.
Bob asks, do you use avatars on purpose by design to avoid distractions of a live instructor? I observed that as well. I kind of liked the avatar, but is there an intentional aspect of the avatar versus a live instructor?
Yeah, so that is part of it. So we didn't want to have a live instructor that might be a little more distracting, right? But the other part of it is that many of these exercises are very, very precise. And you can't get a live person, for instance, on a metronomic timing training where you're doing a clap on a very specific beat, or they're doing steps on a very specific beat. You can't have a human do that and be able to maintain millisecond precision. You have to use technology or an avatar to do that. So there's a reason from a content efficacy standpoint, but also from just a distraction standpoint.
Great. And let's see here. Betty asks, and how do you accommodate low vision or blindness? I don't know. I'm assuming a group class would be able to potentially accommodate that, but also, one of the things we talk about are assistive technology devices, and a lot of times people with low vision and blindness have the ability to amplify their screen if they're using a computer screen or what have you. But I didn't know if you encountered that yet.
Yeah, no, so we have some of our programs, many of them, if they are, if you're colorblind or have difficulty with that, will have both the color and maybe a number. So that if you're supposed to say the color of something, you can instead say the number that you see, because you may not be able to distinguish the color. But as far as like someone who's blind or has very serious visual issues, it's really just a matter of them getting closer to the screen, and so we're not yet at a point where we have an alternative for the blind community in that.
Okay. And then let's see, Bob asks, does the subscription include an app that would track sort of your results and your usage? And I mean, a lot of these fitness apps now, you can sort of see your improvement. Do you have some ways to generate that yet?
Yeah, so on a corporate level, we can get those reports together for the organization, but on an individual level, we do not yet have that embedded into the system. It's something that we're looking at, and we'd like to be able to do. It's on the radar. It's just not something that's available yet.
Okay, great. And then let's see, on the website, I guess it talks about executive function as a benefit in the mental section. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
So executive function is a fairly broad term, but essentially decision making is a key element within that executive function area. And that is something that a number of different types of training will help. Aerobic training specifically has been shown to have some very profound benefits on executive function, but also and decision making. but also the multisensory training. When you are forcing your brain, and remember, our brain is designed to adapt and change, but it also likes to take the short route. It likes to take the shortcut if it can. So, and that's why athletes, the coaches have to push the athletes, and athletes push themselves in practice, right? Or in any situation, right? But so the brain's going to want to take the shortcut. So by challenging the brain, by having it have to process visual commands and auditory commands at the same time, for instance, or visual commands while being able to move their body accordingly, that's going to force the brain to have to organize better so that it can process information more effectively, so that it can respond more quickly and be able to make those decisions. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're really trying to relegate as much as possible down to the autonomic system. I didn't add this slide because it would take too long, but basically we have two computers in our brain, one our conscious mind, our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind can only do one thing really at a time. Our subconscious can do lots of things. The more we can practice, the more we can do these things, the more we're going to push a lot of these decisions down to the subconscious, so they become instinctual, leaving our conscious mind available to make higher level decisions. And that's kind of what that's about. So it's going to help enhance executive function from that standpoint by pushing other easier tasks down to the subconscious.
Wow. I glanced at the clock again, and I can't believe it's past 1. I didn't realize how fast we've ripped through here. Let me finish with this question and just remind everybody that I've recorded this and it'll be on proaging.com this afternoon. But and what accommodation does the program make in the context of working alone without a trainer for physical conditions that inhibit the ability to stand, impede dexterity, and other problem areas? Are there alternative exercises and workarounds? Yeah, so I think we talked about that a little bit, but I get what the individual is saying. If I'm alone at home, like, are there some tutorials on the workaround, or do you do any sort of phone consultation with people that subscribe or anything like that?
Great question. So the programs themselves have multiple avatars or multiple video coaches on there, and most of the ones the programs that this person would be doing would be ones that would have a seated modification. And oftentimes there's 3 modifications: one seated, one standing and doing a basic easier movement, and then one that might be more advanced. So that's kind of built in. We don't have phone consultations available to individual subscribers, but we do train, we have a training program for instructors at senior communities. And it's very simple because, again, all the instructions delivered on the screen. But that would allow the instructor to be able to help make some of those modifications.
Great. Man, we really just burned through a bunch of content there pretty quickly. This is really exciting, Mike. And before you drop off and before I close things out here, let me see if I can drop your, I know you've been talking the whole time. I just want to make sure that I drop your contact info into the,
you can put my phone number in there too, if you want.
Yeah, let me see. I think I've got your, your whole signature here. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to drop in Mike's cell phone and his email, and feel free to reach out to him. And if you end up using the programs, stay in touch. So we love having follow-up from folks that have used some of the things that are on our discussions. And let's see. Okay, somebody says force require the brain to organize better, leave conscious mind to make decisions, subconscious. Here, I'm just going to cut and paste this into the chat because we are out of time. And all right, folks, I want to thank Mike I want to thank everybody for attending and asking such thought-provoking questions. We'll see you guys next week. And like I said, I will get a recording with the chat and Mike's contact info up online this afternoon. And thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody. Hope to
You
hear.
bet. Talk to you.
Bye-bye.